Yeah, Mark, it's kind of interesting what's going on in Tennessee right now. The fan base is really torn. It's kind of interesting to see the media and the fans. It reminds me of the election in the United States. There are people who are very adamant about firing Butch Jones, and there are people who are very adamant about he's on the right track. And there's not a lot of middle ground, and it's split about 50-50. It's fascinating to watch. Here's the thing: Butch Jones isn't going anywhere. Tennessee just confirmed their chancellor today, their brand new university chancellor. They're still interviewing for the athletic director position, so that's not going to be decided anytime soon. So as far as Butch Jones goes, there's no hot seat issues in Knoxville. People are disappointed. A great start. They beat Florida. Of course, they beat Georgia. And then they lost inexplicably to South Carolina. That was by far the worst loss of the season, and it was absolutely inexcusable. Of course, you had the Jalen Hurd saga after that. A freshman defensive lineman was suspended today, so he will make the fifth scholarship player who has either left the team, either voluntarily or involuntarily, that started the Appalachian game on the roster, the fifth one this season. Jalen Hurd, Jeremy Lewis, Preston Williams, Danny O'Brien, and Michael, and the player today. So there's some instability there. There was a 247 report about unhappiness within the program. I don't buy into that. I think the players and the coaching staff are just as unhappy. I think there is some friction amongst some of the coaches. I would expect some assistant coaches to not be retained this offseason, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. The offensive coordinator, Mike DeBoer, is taking a lot of heat as well with Butch Jones, even though the Volunteers put up, I think, 4 straight games of 40 points in the second half of the season. So it's really there really is uncertainty in Knoxville, and it's splitting the fan base, and it's kind of sad to see. The team came in with such a promising season, a lot of talent. And you never want to blame anything on injuries, but if you look at the injuries that affected the front seven of Tennessee's defense, I believe I counted it up last week. I believe the Tennessee front seven missed over 51 starts from starters in this season. And if you look at the Vanderbilt game, that was clearly the issue. The Alabama game was just a poor game, turnovers in Texas A&M. But that Vanderbilt game, the difference between a Sugar Bowl and Music City Bowl was the injuries to the front seven. Over 50 game starts from defensive linemen and linebackers. Of course, that's going to not play very well against Nebraska. So I'm expecting that to impact the game against Nebraska as well in the bowl game. So that's what's going on in Knoxville. Very a lot of animosity both sides. The fan base is kind of either got on the Butch wagon or the anti-Butch Jones wagon, and it's tearing the fan base apart. It's for an 8-4 team. You look at what happened with Mark Richt and coaches who consistently win 8, 9, 10 games. On the other hand, you say, look at the talent we have. We're probably going to put 5 guys in the NFL. We should have been a 9 or 10 win team season. And here's the bottom line: both of those arguments are correct. Tennessee should have had a better season, but absolutely the injuries played a tremendous role in us not meeting expectations. And I think that's what people miss sometimes, is that in college football, there's not necessarily a right or wrong answer. There's just, it just happens that way sometimes. And I think people get a little bit impatient, and it's really wearing thin on Tennessee fans. After that Florida win, we really thought we were over the hump, and then we lay a complete egg against South Carolina and lose that one against Vanderbilt. So started out strong, finished poorly. So the fan base is not in a good position right now in Knoxville.
So Tennessee's a 3-point favorite against Nebraska in the Music City Bowl, and this game is not a mismatch, but make no mistake about it, the Vols are a more talented team than Nebraska. Nebraska has a roster full of top 30 to 35 recruiting classes, and Tennessee's in the 5 to 15 range. I don't know what the outlook looks like for this National Signing Day, but considering that a lot of attention is given to that number, and especially in the SEC, where was your recruiting class? And then considering back-to-back 8-4s after a 7-6 and an expected double-digit win season, is there a tangible number or championship that Butch Jones needs to hit in 2017 to retain his job?
Yeah, so as I said, we're looking for an athletic director. I think it's probably down to 2 people. So once they get installed in the spring and summer, they'll take over in July 1st, I believe, or June 1st or July 1st of 2017. So he'll be in the seat. So Butch Jones will have the 2017 season to prove himself. Tennessee last week picked up the #1 recruit in ESPN 300 offensive tackle Trey Smith out of Jackson, Tennessee. So Tennessee's recruiting class on the 247 composite is right at about 10 right now. So another top 10 class for Butch Jones. There's expectation that Tennessee's in play for Cam Akers, which would put them probably at #7 or #8 if they land him. They have about 3 more spots to go for this recruiting class. So having said that, the expectation in Knoxville is going to be the same, and with a new athletic director, it will probably be even higher. You got to think Butch Jones, the target there is you got to win the SEC East next year, and probably 9 wins. If you win the SEC East with 9 wins, you're probably safe. If it's anything less than that, there's probably going to be serious conversations. Now, I wrote an article last week. The options in Knoxville aren't necessarily what Tennessee does with Butch Jones. I get the impression that Butch Jones might not be having as much fun in Knoxville as he could be. I would not be surprised if Butch Jones's agent might be looking around and testing the waters elsewhere. It's interesting, if these Harbaugh or Rams rumors are true, you got to think Michigan looks at Les Miles, and you got to think they probably give Butch Jones's agent a call as well. Not sure that's going to happen. I'm just saying if it does happen, you would think that Butch Jones would be one of the 5 or 10 people they make initial calls to. I do think there's a possibility Butch Jones leaves Tennessee on his own accord.
And I'm guessing that people that aren't necessarily paying attention within Vols Nation like you, that would be a bit of a surprise to them, that considering the underachievement of last season and to a lesser extent the season before, that Butch Jones is actually maybe going to walk and take a premier job elsewhere and not get shown the door.
Yeah, it would have to be a premier job. There was no interest in any of the jobs that were opening this season. Purdue, there was no interest there. Oregon, there was no interest from his side, or at least to my knowledge, nothing reported out of Knoxville. There was some speculation about Purdue, but I don't think it had any credibility whatsoever. But if there is a job next season that does come open, and it is a premier job, Michigan. Butch Jones is from that area up north. So if there is a premier job closer to his home, up in that direction, I would not be totally shocked to see him take that job. It would have to be a premier job. He does like it in Knoxville. I think just the consternation and the infighting amongst the fan base kind of wears on you, especially in the off season when you can't go out to the practice field every afternoon and kind of focus on the football. When you're out traveling and you have to read the newspaper and you have to read the reports, I think it kind of wears on you, particularly at the end of a long, very frustrating season.